what somebody sent me, what somebody emailed me, it is by far the worst, disgusting thing that I have ever covered on my channel. And it's from a newer book, not one of their older publications, but it's from this book, Jesus, the Way, the Truth, the Life. And I think the year might be 2014, 2015 or something. But this is going back to the songbook on that level of discuss. But it's also connected to Saturn worship, which I discussed in my last video. So before I get into what somebody had sent me, I first want to go back to some more incriminating evidence based on what I discussed in my last video. So I'm not going to give a summary on what I discussed in my last video. So before you watch this video, you want to watch my last video titled, What Was Found in Caleb's Room? The Dark Truth of Become Jehovah's Friend. So to pick up right where I left off in that other video, there's a couple of, I want to say, more incriminating evidence against Watchtower on what they put in Caleb's room. So in my last video, when Jane Bennett, one of my subscribers, told me about the 666 in Caleb's room, as soon as the scene started, I seen the 666 as soon as the mother walked into Caleb's room. But Jane Bennett was saying that it is when the mother says Jehovah disciplines is when you see the sixes on the screen, which you can see very clearly what she was talking about. So when I was watching the playback of my video, I noticed something strange. The first thing I noticed is that in the scene that I noticed the sixes in, and the scene that Jane Bennett told me to pause it at, you can see that when I outline the sixes, that they're in the shape of a pyramid. Now, we already know that Watchtower has a lot of history with pyramid symbolism. And when this number comes up in subliminal messaging and other entities that have done this with the sixes, they put them in a pyramid also. So this is a thing when people put these sixes subliminally in the background that in some other cases they're also in the shape of a pyramid. So I noticed that it's not a coincidence that you can see that in both of these scenes they're in a pyramid shape. That's for a reason. But this is when I started to really see how deliberate this is, because when I looked at these two images, I thought, how can we see the same pyramid structure in both of these images? Because the one that Jane Bennett told me to look into, which is the one on the right, it's a close-up. So you see, it doesn't take a mathematician or a geometry expert to understand this simple concept, because if you zoom in on somebody's face till you can only see their head and neck, what's in the background of the outer edges is not going to show up in the picture. So when I looked at these two pictures, I thought, how can the same pyramid structure of the sixes still be visible when I zoom in on her face and still in the shape of a pyramid? So I could see that they want to emphasize these, let's call them planets that are designed to look to be subliminal sixes, but they design these planets in such a way that they want to emphasize and imprint on your brain the pyramid structure. And even to the point where they zoom in on her face, they want you to still tie in to that pyramid shape. So let me just break this down for Jehovah's Witnesses, because I know what Jehovah's Witnesses, the brainwashing is pretty strong. and it may be hard for them to understand that this is all very deliberate. So I want to just make an elementary example specifically for Jehovah's Witnesses to understand what I'm talking about. Now, don't correct me on the square footage of a room this size because when I say 4 feet, I'm just making a basic elementary example just to explain this concept to Jehovah's Witnesses. So I don't know what the exact square footage would be and how far these objects are from Caleb's mom, but I'm going to say 4 feet just as an example. So in simple terms, if this pyramid structure of sixes is 4 feet from Caleb's mother, then if you zoom in on just her face and neck, you shouldn't still see those same sixes in that same pyramid structure, right? It's very simple because if those sixes are 4 feet from her head, just let's just say 4 feet, then when you zoom in on her face, now it appears that the sixes are just a foot from her head, right? Like the wall shrunk. Basically, if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you don't see this as deliberate, the only option you have to believe is that for some reason, when she sat down, the wall shrunk in, and now what was 4 feet from her head is now only a foot from her head. But this is a very simple concept to understand. It's not really hard to understand this. That if you, as you can see on the left side, that when she sits down on the bed, you can see where those sixes are positioned. They're not anywhere close to her. So how is it right behind her head now? And just to give even more of a visual to Jehovah's Witnesses, so if and I know that her head is not in the same angle that we're looking at, but basically, if you take the photo on the left and just crop out her head and neck and look at the background, you can see what I'm saying. That those pyramid structure of sixes cannot be in the background if you zoom in on just her face and neck. But as you can see, that Watchtower has some specific agenda of making sure that even when they zoomed in on her face and neck, that it was important for them to then move this pyramid structure of sixes right behind her head when it shouldn't be visible anymore. So why would they go out of their way to do that? So now I'm going to take this a step deeper. So I'm going to name the positions of these sixes by letters. So the top six we're going to call position A, and the bottom one we're going to call position B, and the far right one we'll call position C. So when Caleb's mom sits down on the bed and they zoom in on her face and neck, the only one of these sixes that should be visible, if any, would be position number A. That is the only one that could still be in a zoomed photo. So notice when she sits on the bed where position B is at. So position B is lined up with her butt, right? So just keep that in mind. That's where position B is lined up. So if position B is let low, then how is it that when they zoom in on her face, now position B is lined up with her chin? You see what I'm saying? They moved the whole structure for a reason. You shouldn't see that position B anymore. But position C is even more obvious that Watchtower is basically playing psychological games and they want to emphasize these sixes specifically in this pyramid structure. So when you look at position C is on the same wall that Caleb's posters are on. And if you notice the blue arrow that I have at the top and you see that line that I drew, that's the crease in the room. So you can see position C is on a completely different wall. It's not even on the same wall as the other two sixes. And that other line that I have below shows that position C is lined up with Caleb's posters. And then if you see the green arrow, well, the green arrow is pointing to the foot of Caleb's bed. Now notice where the foot of Caleb's bed is at. So if you see where the foot of Caleb's bed is at, how is position C now that's on the same wall that she's looking at behind her head? She's looking at Caleb. Caleb is sitting next to a completely different wall. So she's looking at position C is where the other six is at. But now it's behind her head, right? And you can see the angle that she's at because where you see the green arrow, that's the foot of Caleb's bed. So she's looking in the direction of position C. So how is position C now behind her head? Now, the reason I wanted to break this down in such detail is because what this shows is that when she first walks in the room, they want to give you that image of the sixes and a pyramid structure for a certain reason. And they are very specific what they want it the flash in your brain and the pyramid shape. And this pyramid shape is so important that even in a completely different scene, when they zoom in on her face, they bring this pyramid structure closer, just a foot behind her head, to give you that same image. But as you can see by the layout of the room, it would be impossible that that should still be in the background. So why would a watchtower, if these are just planets and stars and we're seeing things and it's not subliminally meant to be sixes, then why would they go through such effort to take these random planets in the shape of a pyramid and make it a point to have to move it behind her head? Obviously, this proves that this is very deliberate and subliminal, and that they want to flash these sixes, particularly in the shape of a pyramid, more than once. Now, I'm now going to take this even one more step deeper. So if you notice the green box that I have on the left side, where you see position A and B at, notice what happens because, or basically, I'm not going to play the video, but when she sits down, you can see where position A and position B are at in that green box. And then what they do is they change the camera angle so she looks at Caleb and they show a close-up of Caleb. Now, right after they show a close-up of Caleb, the sixes are gone and there's a dresser there. Now, where did that dresser come from? Right? It's like magic. There's a dresser there. And notice all three sixes are gone. All of them are gone. And the only one that maybe you could still see would be position C, but you could see position C if that's even what that is. It's so blurry now. But when it comes to the background being blurry, remember that this is a cartoon. It's not real actors. It's not a real camera. So there is no blur. There's no real blur. Anything is blurry is because they wanted to blur it out. It's not going to be blurry by accident. So for some reason, they blurred out the sixes. Or I won't even say they blurred out the sixes. They pretty much just got rid of the sixes, it looks like altogether, besides maybe position C, and then they put a dresser there. Now, I'm going to now explain what this is because this is a tactic using subliminal messaging, what they're doing. So this is why they did that. You see, if you look at the top left box, when she walks in a room and sits down, you can see the pyramid structure of the sixes. Then if you look at the top right box is when they put the camera angle on Caleb. And then at the bottom left box, where they now go back to the way the scene looked, you can see that the sixes are gone and there's a dresser there. But then when they zoom in on her face, now the sixes are back, but in a different position because they're right behind her head now. So this is what they're doing, which is just more proof of subliminal messaging, is that the reason they put that dresser there is because they want to emphasize those sixes and for some reason the pyramid shape. So what they did is you see, if they didn't put the dresser there and they didn't make the sixes disappear, if they went from one frame to the next frame, it's possible, it's not likely, but it's possible your conscious mind may actually notice that that pyramid shape of planets that look like sixes has moved behind our head. Right now, again, it's not likely and that easily that your conscious mind is going to see that, but it's possible. So, what they do sometimes with subliminal messaging and when they're trying to mess with your head is they'll do other things in the background so you won't notice the change. So instead of just having the six pyramid structure move completely behind her head, they gradually did it. So what they did was they took the camera off of the sixes and zoomed in on Caleb's face. And then when they went back to the original scene, they put the dresser there at the same time they got rid of the sixes altogether. Now, the reason they did that is so you don't realize that the sixes are gone. You don't realize really that something has changed. If your conscious mind notices that something has changed, you're going to just think, oh, the dresser is there because they changed the camera angle slightly. But the dresser was put there as a distraction, so you don't notice that the sixes have completely disappeared. And now when the sixes turn back up exactly behind her head, your conscious mind is not going to even notice that because of the dresser. You see, the dresser there was a distraction. And when you're doing subliminal messages like this, not just Watchtower, but this is a tactic that is used, is they will do things to distract you so you don't know when they're messing with things, when they're shifting things, when they're changing things. And if this is over the head of most Jehovah's Witnesses, we'll just ask yourself, why would they go out of their way to, for no reason, put a dresser there? As you see in the first scene, the dresser is not there in the left. Why would they go out of their way to say, you know what, we need to draw a dresser and blur out those planets, the ones that people like me say are sixes, right? If those are just random planets, why bother? Why go through that much trouble to make the planets disappear to look like sixes and throw a dresser there? And then bring those planets back, but in the same structure of a pyramid. You see, but anyway, all that is subliminal programming. So you don't, so your conscious mind doesn't catch the fact that they moved it. But as it's very clear when you look at the position of those sixes, position B should not be lined up with her chin when it was way below her chin before, and position C is on a completely different wall. So how is she looking at the same wall position C is on and it's right behind her head? Right? And they're emphasizing this pyramid structure for a reason. So now let me move on to another Caleb and Sophia episode that actually connects to what we're discussing with Caleb's room. So if you go to this video titled "You Are Precious to Jehovah," you'll notice that in the newer versions of Caleb and Sophia, there's a black character, right? So they now have a black family that's Sophia's friend. So as soon as I seen there was another child character, the first thing I thought of is let me go find the same pattern of three pictures on a wall and something strange with the wallpaper that is emphasized in one of the three pictures on the wall. So when I looked into the black girl's room, I was actually surprised that I didn't see anything in it, right? I was kind of surprised about that. But, and I don't know if I'm seeing things, but are they making fun of black people with the way that the mom looks? And just for the record, I'm black myself, so don't try to say I'm being stereotypical in any way. So I'm black, but are they like? I feel like they're making fun of black people. Like, why does she look like that? I mean, she got like they're making her hips big. She got like a stripper belt on, and then she has a big nose and big lips, and just she's sitting in a like I don't know what it is, but I feel like they're making fun of black people. I don't know, but anyway, if you're a black woman in the Jehovah's Witness organization, just for the record, this is their depiction of you, right? Just saying, right? That's their depiction of a black woman. But anyway, so I didn't find anything in her bedroom, but I did find something in her locker room, or not her locker room, but I did find something in her locker. So notice when this black girl goes into her locker and notice what you can see in her locker.
Okay.
So what you can see is the same pattern of three pictures, right? So the first one looks like it's a picture of her and her mom. The second picture, it looks like when she was born. And then the third picture is something drawn on like a chalkboard or something. Not a chalkboard, but some other type of, I don't know what that's called, like a whiteboard or something. But you can see the pattern of the three pictures. And I don't know what these pictures mean exactly. I have a couple of guesses, but is there anything with the wallpaper inside of her locker? Well, notice when she opens it, and let me know if you can see what is kind of strange about the wallpaper in her locker.
Hey, Zoe.
So you have the three pictures and you have the wallpaper. Can anyone tell me why Saturn just happens to be there? Right? I mean, what they did in Caleb's room is they pretended that Caleb just likes planets, right? So that's why in Caleb's room you had all the other planets on the wallpaper, but then the secret emphasis was on Saturn, right? But that was Caleb's room. So if you believed the front that Watchtower put on, oh no, Caleb just likes planets. There's no emphasis on Saturn. Well, now you have a completely different character, a female character. There's no indication that she's into planets like Caleb is. Is there a reason there just happens to be Saturn in her locker for no reason? But then notice that so she opened the locker to show you Saturn, which is the main part of the scene. And then notice that after she closes the locker, they emphasize Saturn again.
Oh, hey.
What you doing?
I'm just about to meet.
Sophia. Why do you hang out with her? She's so
Different?
weird. She never does anything fun. I mean, you're different, Zoe. But in a cool way. You should hang out with us, not that oozer.
Angela, please see me immediately.
See you later, Zoe.
Now, I don't know if you caught that, but basically, she opened up her locker for no reason. She didn't put anything in the locker and she didn't take anything out of the locker. So she already opened up the locker to show us Saturn, right? They already did that once. What was the purpose after those other girls left that she opened up the locker for no reason again, just to shut it? And why are they showing us the inside of the locker? You see, that's the thing about these subliminal programs is that all these little things have meaning to us. So there's a reason that they want to show us the inside of the locker. It really doesn't make any sense from a practical standpoint why they're showing us the inside of the locker for what? What is inside the locker that they need to end this scene inside the locker? Well, when it comes to subliminal programming, what's in this locker that they're emphasizing is Saturn. That's only the reason they're showing us the inside of the locker. And that's the only reason why they're closing the scene out with the inside of the locker. And as you can see now, the other pictures are not visible. So this is another emphasis to Saturn. That's the only reason this scene is in here is because of Saturn. Now, I'm not going to go through every Caleb and Sophia episode to show you how many times Saturn comes up, but you can be sure that it's a pattern because they're Saturn worshipers. They got to keep planting Saturn in other subliminal ways. So in the first video I did about Machu Picchu was when we first uncovered the pattern in Sophia's room. And then Jane Bennett 9 is the one that uncovered the same pattern, the exact pattern, in Caleb's room. So when I found out there was a black character, another child character, the first thing I did was I looked in her room. I couldn't find anything in her room, but I did find the same pattern in her locker. Right? You see what I'm saying? It's the same pattern. Even though it's not exactly in the same spot, it's the same idea. 3 pictures on the wall, and the wallpaper being emphasized on by one of the pictures. Now, in her locker room, I don't know what those pictures have to do with Saturn. I haven't made that connection like in Caleb's room and Sophia's room. But one small connection, and I'm just speculating at this point, is that if you notice one of those pictures in her locker room is her being born, it looks like, right? I think that's like the day of her birth. Maybe it looks like her father's holding her. So maybe the connection with that is Saturn worship, sacrificing your child, right, to false gods. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's the connection, but there's something with the 3 pictures. There's a reason that it's the number 3, and there's something with the wallpaper again. In this case, it's just Saturn just sitting there. Why emphasize Saturn again? We already know Caleb likes Saturn, but you see, they're Saturn worshipers. That's what's going on. Now, I mentioned in the last video and a couple other videos, I mentioned the same thing, that I do believe that every single episode of Caleb and Sophia's got something subliminal in it. I think every single video has got something in it. So I I watched a couple videos. I didn't watch all the videos, but I skimmed through some of these videos just to see if my theory was right that there's something in every video. And in every video that I looked at, I found something in it. Every single video. I mean, I didn't look through all of them, but I could watch these videos for just a matter of like a minute and start finding stuff. So I wanted to show this as an example of what I mean, how every one of these episodes has got something hidden in it. So if you go to this episode, Love Jehovah's House, and what you'll notice in the thumbnail is it's an odd thumbnail. Love Jehovah's House. And the subtitle says, How Can We Care for the Kingdom Hall? So that's what it's about. It's about Caleb cleaning the Kingdom Hall. So with a title like that, Love Jehovah's House, why is the thumbnail him looking inside of a trash can and us having the view of inside the bottom of the trash can looking out? Wouldn't an episode about Love Jehovah's House and Care for the Kingdom Hall, shouldn't the thumbnail be like the Kingdom Hall? Why this photo? Right? It's just kind of an unusual pick for the topic of the video. It doesn't really make any sense. But when I looked at this thumbnail, it jumped out right away as a subliminal symbol. Now, I'm not sure if everybody knows what I'm talking about. I don't know the correct name for this, but this trash can that he's looking in, it's from what I can recall, I don't remember seeing trash cans like that, honestly, since like the 1980s, like literally. The trash can is like these old trash cans that kind of look like they're made out of aluminum, sort of, and they have these like rigid lines, like up and down. And I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong, but I have not seen anybody use cans like that, honestly, since like the 1980s, from what I can recall. I mean, I'm living here in America, and at least in America, I can say that most people, and definitely Kingdom Halls, usually have the big plastic trash barrels that the city comes and picks up or empties. So this style trash can that's like made out of aluminum and has got these rigid lines. I never see these trash cans anymore. So it's kind of an unusual trash can to be at a Kingdom Hall, definitely at a Kingdom Hall. And why would they emphasize this type of a trash can? Right? It's an odd choice. But anyway, so I recognize this right away exactly why they use that type of a trash can. So the whole all-seeing eye of providence, there's different types of this all-seeing eye. It's not all connected with evil. Different organizations use this particular symbol, but there's a classic symbol, and you can see it on this artwork where you can see that in the middle you have the all-seeing eye, and you can see like it's clouds, right? So that's like the sky, and those rigid like aluminum lines coming out of it are like representing the representative of the rays of light, the rays of light coming from the eyeball in the middle, right? So there's a lot of depictions of this eyeball with those rays of light with those rigid lines. So if you take a closer look at this, you can see why Watchtower decided to use a 1980s trash can. Nobody uses trash cans like that anymore, but you see those lines are almost identical to the right, to this symbol. And we can see where Caleb's face is at. That's where the pyramid should be, right? Picture Caleb's face not there, and you just see the pyramid with the light coming through. This is the symbol. The symbol is the eyeball with the light coming through in the clouds, and these rigid lines are meant to be the rays of light. So why are they showing us that in Watchtower? Because it's a reference to this symbol. That's the only reason why it's there. That's the reason why Watchtower used that type of a trash can, which you already know no Kingdom Hall uses trash cans like that. And if you think that this is just a one-time thing, that the symbol on the right looks identical to the trash can, let me show you some other examples so you know what I'm talking about. So if you look at all these different examples of this symbol, look at the rigid lines coming from the middle that are supposed to be the rays of light. That's what Watchtower is doing. That's why that Caleb's face is right where it's at, and that's why the light is coming through. It's subliminal to this particular sign. And then going back to where Caleb's face is at, that is where the sunshine and the clouds and the rays of light are emanating from, right where Caleb's head is at. So that's the symbol that they're subliminally putting in the background with that trash can. And let me now show you even more how obvious this is a subliminal message. So notice that when we play this clip, Caleb is inside the Kingdom Hall cleaning. He's not outside. He's in the Kingdom Hall. But when he throws something away, he's suddenly outside with the bright light shining identical to the all-seeing eye. Notice he's in the Kingdom Hall, but when he throws the trash out, suddenly he's outside.
Nice job, Caleb. When we keep
Now, did you notice how they did that? So I'm going to explain how subtle and subliminal this is. So he's inside the Kingdom Hall cleaning. he finds one little piece of trash, right? Just one little tiny piece of trash. It's a paper. It's not like raw meat that has to go outside. It's a little scribbled up piece of paper. And he's inside the Kingdom Hall cleaning. So why does he have to go all the way outside to throw this one little piece of garbage away? It's just paper. Why not use one of the 10 trash cans in the Kingdom Hall while he's cleaning? So that's the first thing. But if you notice how they're messing with your head with this, and this is how they add subliminal messages in, they show him pick up the piece of trash, then he throws it, which suddenly he's outside. But right after he throws it outside, they then kind of show him like lifting up as if he never left the building. Right now, why do they have that sequence where as soon as he throws it in the trash can, they show him lifting up as if he was in the building the whole time and never was outside? It's very subtle, but again, this is how they plant these subliminal messages in your head. Now, the reason they did that is because they don't want you to make the connection that why did he go outside and throw one little piece of trash away? However, they want to cause that subliminal effect. So the whole reason that they want to show him outside in this 1980s trash can is to throw that subliminal all-seeing eye image with the rays of light. They want to imprint that on your brain. That's the whole point of the scene. But then after that, when they show him lifting up, they're giving you the illusion almost like he never even left the building, which he never should have left the building because it's only a little piece of paper. It's only common sense. You're going to throw that in the trash and the garbage inside the Kingdom Hall. Right? And I'm not saying that I'm explaining this perfectly because I'm not like an expert at subliminal messages. I'm just apparently I'm good at actually decoding this stuff and finding it, but so I can't say exactly 100% why they had him in that sequence where after he throws it in the trash, you see him lifting up, but they are giving you kind of like the illusion as if he never left the building. So the whole thing is strange because he shouldn't have left the building, but the whole point of him needing to be outside is just to give you that image of that all-seeing eye and rays of light. And then trying to make it seem like he never left the building by the way he lifts up is just a way they kind of threw that image at you without you kind of realizing, well, wait a minute, why is he outside now? Like they do it so quick, but those are all just little programs that they do. And it's similar to the dresser with the sixes on the walls, the same sort of thing. So you can clearly see the position of those sixes. And there's no way that same pyramid structure could be behind her head, but they did kind of the same thing. So by taking the camera off of both of them, making a close-up of Caleb, then when they go back, they put the dresser there. Again, that putting that dresser there is so you don't realize that they moved the sixes. And it's the similar kind of like trickery, manipulation with Caleb throwing the trash out. Right after he throws out the trash, they show him lift up almost as if he never left the building. Like basically just messing with your head so you don't really realize these things are planted in there. But on close examination, these type of things are not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. There's a reason they chose that trash can, that type of trash can. There's a reason they had him outside when he shouldn't have been outside. And there's a reason that his head is exactly where the pyramid should be with the sunlight and the rays of light coming in. Now, in the last video, when I mentioned the mother not wearing a bra, I know some people were saying they couldn't quite see it. And I recommend like downloading this video directly from their website and see if you could get clear image. But you might notice that when she first walks into the room, it's more obvious that she's not wearing a bra. You can see a lot more movement. I focus when she sits on the bed, but if you notice that when she first comes in the room, it's a little bit more obvious that they're jiggling around without a bra. But for those that think that this is not in here to be disgusting, and they're not like just doing disgusting stuff in a toddler's cartoon, which they shouldn't be. This stuff is not a coincidence. And what I what I mentioned in the beginning of this video about the worst thing that I've seen and the worst thing that I've ever covered on this channel, you're going to see why I'm saying that this thing with her breast and a child's cartoon is not just by chance. Everything is on purpose. Everything is on purpose. So let me go to what somebody emailed me. So this was an email. It's not a comment. So normally I put the comment on the screen, but this was an email that was sent to me. And I'm not going to put it on the screen just because I'm not really sure exactly what I can say on YouTube sometimes. So the way that the message was written on what they were exposing, I'm not going to read the email, but basically the name that he went by was Angel. Go to the website. And I'm saying go to the website because this is just like the songbook. It's one of those things that if this gets around, they're gonna basically erase it from their history. So go to the website and download the PDF right from your website before anything changes. And it's this book, Jesus, the Way, the Truth, the Life. And this is the same book that had the vibrator on the floor, right? So it doesn't surprise me that the same book has got even darker stuff than them putting the vibrator on the floor. This is this is the worst. And it's so bad that I'm not gonna spell it out. Witnesses, you need to smarten up. I shouldn't have to spell these things out. You should be able to see past the brainwashing and clearly see what's going on. So I'm just gonna basically ask a couple of questions. I'm not gonna say much about this, and I don't want to say much about this. So if you go to page 129, this is the account where Jesus is feeding bread to everybody. So look carefully at all the bread. And what you'll notice is that everybody's bread looks normal, except for the children. So the question is why? Why is it that you have all these people around, bread that was freshly made by Jesus, right? And if you look at all the circles, everybody's bread looks normal. In fact, the woman on the right and the white, it almost looks like she got a hamburger, right? But all the bread looks normal. Why is it only the minors on the page got weird looking bread? Right? So I'm just asking a question. I'm not even going to say anything. But why does your bread why can't it be normal like everybody else's bread? Why did the artist decide their bread is going to look different? So when you take a closer look at the bread that the girl has, they made it a point by the way they drew her upper lip that she's not eating the bread. She's not taking a bite out of the bread. She's sucking on the bread. You can see that by her upper lip. Now look at everyone else's mouth on the whole entire page. Do you see anyone else eating this bread that looks like her? Why did they make her upper lip look like that? Right? And remember, when it's a drawing, there's no excuses because everything is drawn in. There's no mistakes. Right? So we can already see that her bread doesn't seem to look like everyone else's bread. It seems to be a different shape. And why did they make her upper lip like that? But it gets worse. So again, look at the bread that looks normal. So when you look at the bread that the boy has, whatever it looks like is near his mouth is not even the same color as the bread everyone else is eating. And when you look at the boy's hand, look at his bottom finger on his upper hand by his mouth and his bottom finger. Whatever he's holding doesn't look like a piece of bread. And look at the bottom of that that's sticking out of what he's holding. Is there a reason they couldn't draw a normal looking piece of bread? Does that look anything like a piece of bread? Why does it got that type of shape at the bottom of it? And then the woman to the left, I'm sorry, the guy at the top right. Yeah, the guy at the top right is just eating his bread looking normal. The woman to the left looks like she's looking straight ahead, waiting for her bread. What is this guy in the middle doing? What kind of face is that? Does he look like he's zoning out? Does it look like his mind is somewhere else? What is going on? Now, here's the thing. I'm not an artist. But if I'm drawing a piece of bread and I'm not an artist, it's not going to be that hard that everybody's bread looks the same, period. So what the hell is going on? Now, as I said in the last video, and I emphasized this in the last video, Watchtower works in patterns. There's no coincidences. There's no excuses. It's a pattern. No coincidence can come up this many times in an organization's history. It is a pattern, period. And because it's a pattern, this is why you see the same stuff. The same sick, nasty stuff is why it keeps coming up, because it's a pattern. Now, we already know what happened with the black guy in the songbook. There's a reason that they took him out and put a white guy there. And this is one of those things that it doesn't matter how brainwashed Jehovah's Witnesses are and how much they try to defend this organization. When Watchtower panicked and they took the black guy off the book, replaced him with a white guy, it shows that they know what they're covering up. Right? And no Jehovah's Witness can explain this. Find me one Jehovah's Witness that they can explain why they would take just the black guy off of this book and replace him with a white guy and have to print out all new books. Can anybody explain why they did that? I mean, I can explain why they did that. It's pretty clear why they did that, because they're covering it up. And for those who are new to my channel, who don't really know what I'm talking about with this songbook, well, you can go on my page and I have 3 videos that are about this subject that break this down. So you can watch those videos if you want to understand more what Watchtower is doing. But when they took the black guy off and put a white guy there, it shows that none of this is by mistake. Everything that you're seeing in this video, it is what it is, and Watchtower knows exactly what they're doing, and it's a habitual pattern. They cannot help themselves. And it must have something to do with them being Saturn worshipers or whatever's going on, but this is why you're seeing the same thing that was in a songbook, the same type of thing in this Jesus book. So when you see this amount of things, though, even if you think that, her not wearing a bra is not a big deal, or you're doubting, you think it's just a coincidence, this organization has a habitual pattern of putting sexual things and doing sexual things and putting all types of sexual perversion. And many times they're involving children with this stuff. which is why they had to take the black guy off the songbook. So again, show me a Jehovah's Witness that can explain why they took the black guy off the songbook. And if you can't find a Jehovah's Witness that can explain that, then you can clearly see all this other stuff. It's all the same. And I think that the reason that there's all these Saturns popping up is maybe the people that run this religion really are Saturn worshipers. But if you can see what's going on in that Jesus book, if you can clearly see that there is no reason why their bread should look any differently, you cannot keep making excuses for an organization like this. Anybody that has children, your children definitely should not have anything to do with this religion. Nothing to do with going to the meetings. And you definitely don't want them watching Caleb and stuff or any of this stuff. It is seriously, I would say, highly dangerous to let your children go anywhere near this crap. And those who are Jehovah's Witnesses, I have to be honest, if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you have kids in this religion, you should be absolutely ashamed because you will subject your children to sick stuff like this because you're that obsessed with the governing body. You're so obsessed with the governing body, you can't see that these men are not from God. You can't see that. You're so obsessed with the governing body that you would subject your children to this type of evil, disgusting crap. These cartoons, these drawings, because of the governing body. And I'm an apostate if I question this, right? I'm an apostate. I'm evil because, oh, how dare I question the governing body where they can do this kind of stuff? And you Jehovah's Witness parents, you don't even question it.